Here are a few things you need to know about your perfect fondant finish on your cake. So first of all, for my buttercream for crumb coating and layering, I like to add cake crumbs to my buttercream. This helps me fill in whatever gaps the cake might have. It helps in also having a very smooth finish, but also structurally so that the buttercream does not melt or move easily. It helps to hold the cake together better in layering and also in crumb coating before adding my fondant. So here I'm just layering my vanilla cakes with my buttercream. Secondly, you should note that in layering your cakes, when it comes to fondant, you have to make sure your layers is leveled. You do not want a situation whereby your cake is slanty or one side isn't leveled. It is going to show. One thing fondant is going to do is to show you all your imperfections on your actual cake. If it was a buttercream cake, you could care less, because anywhere that there's any mishap or any gaps, you can always fill them in with some buttercream and your cake would look leveled and perfect. But with fondant, if your cake structure is bad, best believe your end result is going to be as bad. So here I'm just trimming and leveling as I'm going. This is a leveler that I got in my cake store. You can use any kind of cake leveler you can find in your place of residence, but this is the one that I could get, and so it really helps in leveling my cakes. What you want to do is place it in a crisscross pattern for your round cake, and also for your square cakes, you have to place it on both sides, just to make sure that all angles and all sides of your cake is leveled. So here I've added my last layer of cake. This cake in total was 9 inches tall, and I had to make sure it was leveled. Another thing is to make sure that the sides of your cake are equally as leveled as the top of your cake. That is why we are trimming here. Now, not every baker likes to trim their cakes. Some people like to use buttercream to fill in the gaps, just crumb coat and have a leveled base with your buttercream. Personally, I don't like too much buttercream underneath my fondant because of the humidity in the area that I live. Buttercream being too much under fondant is always chaotic. The weather here is quite hot, and when you do that and put too much buttercream, it tends to melt, and then your fondant begins to shift and lose its shape. Even your cake layers may shift to like different sides and things like that, just like tragedy basically. So to avoid all of that, if you notice, most bakers where I come from, where I live, they do not use too much frosting under their fondant, except you're using chocolate ganache beneath your fondant. Okay, that is the only kind of frosting people are generous with. But when it comes to buttercream, we do not do too much, and that is why we have to level our cakes. We have to trim our cakes as well. So when you're trimming your cake, one thing that you have to ensure is that you start little by little before you increase the amount of cake you're trimming off. You do not just want to go in at once having big slices and big chunks being trimmed off of your cake. That way it's very risky. You may risk denting your cake, you may risk over trimming, you may risk a lot of things going wrong with your cake. So what you want to do is just take your time, just trim gently as you go, and as you go as well, use your cake leveler to ensure that it's leveled so you do not go beyond what you're supposed to. I have a video on my channel talking about why we trim cakes, how to trim cakes, and your concerns, your worries, basically your frequently asked questions behind trimming cakes are being answered in that particular video. So if you'd like to see that, I'll put the link in the description below. So back to our video, we are almost done trimming. As you can already tell, the cake is already looking leveled both on the sides and on the top. Don't be shy to fill in any gaps between the layers. If you notice, the topmost layer, I had added some vanilla cakes trimmings to level that particular layer because I didn't want to trim the cake too much in such a way that I would reduce the size of the cake layer. And so here I'm just trimming and trimming as I go. As I mentioned earlier, as you trim, make sure that you use your leveler on the sides of your cake as well to detect whether or not the sides of your cake are just as leveled as the top. As you can see, I'm making some corrections here and there, and then you're just going to continue this process until you are sure that all the sides of your cake is leveled. So now we are going to crumb coat our cake. I have a video talking about why we crumb coat our cakes and also your frequently asked questions pertaining to crumb coating cakes before adding your final coating. Since this cake was going to be covered in fondant, of course I had to crumb coat because the crumb coat serves as an adhesive for the fondant to adhere to the cake. Okay, make sure that you get all the corners, all the sides, every gap here and there. This is where the crumbs in the buttercream serves its purpose. You see that everything will be smooth, everything will be perfect, and it would still hold its structure. If I were to use just buttercream and there were some gaps here and there, what would happen is those particular areas where it's just buttercream that got filled in would actually be somewhat dented when I put my final coat of fondant on the cake. But with this kind of buttercream that has cake crumbs in it, those crumbs serve a purpose of filling those gaps and helping it to hold its structure. So even when I cover the cake with fondant, it still looks seamless, it still looks perfect. So here I'm using my bench scraper and I'm just scraping off the excess buttercream. Remember, we do not do too much, we just do enough to adhere our fondant on our cake. So there you have it, guys. I hope these tips help you in creating your perfect fondant cakes. I have videos on how to cover your cake with fondant as well, your perfect edge and all that good stuff. Be sure to check out my channel. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share. I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.